Welcome to Amish Roots. Danke for joining me. Wie geht's? Danke means thank you, and wie geht's means how goes it in Pennsylvania Dutch. When your doorbell rings or someone knocks on your door and you answer, and you see a stranger with a briefcase and credentials hanging around their neck standing there, what do you do? Well, if you are anything like me, your antenna goes up and you immediately suspect you have a salesman at your door. You smile, let them speak for a few minutes, and then say, no thanks, and send them on their way. That was not the case when I was a young girl on the farm. It was a common sight for cars to pull up in our yard, and salesmen toting their wares would talk to my mom and dad, trying to make a sale. It was a time of door to door sales, as getting to the bigger stores was not always easy, especially for the Amish. The salesman would come in the house, open their suitcases and bags, and display what they were selling. I remember the Fuller Brush man, someone with Stanley Home Products, and a man selling products from Shackley. They had anything from brooms and brushes, sprays and cleaners, salves and tonics. You could purchase the products on the spot or order and they would deliver it later. Three of the products I remember having at our house were the Fuller clothes brush, which we used for years and we never had to replace it. We also bought Fuller duster spray, and my personal favorite was a green salve called Coolapad. I'm not sure which company sold it, but it was great for rubbing on bug bites. We especially liked it for mosquito bites, as it took away the itch. I also remember it having a very nice smell. Before the use of computers and Google, we had encyclopedia salesmen. We were so happy the day my dad bought our set of books, and we spent countless hours browsing through them. The biggest thing about the purchase of the encyclopedias for me was the man of color who sold them to us. This was probably my first encounter with someone who was not white like us. I wasn't scared or anything. I was more in awe. I was fascinated by the darkness of his skin and, in comparison, the pink color of his palms. It was a great lesson for me in the differences of people. A funny story I heard from my aunt involved a door to door salesman and my mom. The man showed up selling Corelle dinnerware, which was the new fad at the time. He claimed that they were unbreakable, even when dropped on the floor. He was showing my mom these amazing new plates, using the trunk of his car as a counter to show his product. My mom was skeptical that the plate she was holding would not break if it was dropped, but the salesman insisted that it was true. So my mom let it fall from her hands. It landed on the sidewalk and immediately shattered. The man was horrified that she had dropped it on the cement. Mom just looked at him and said, I guess it does break. I don't think he sold any plates that day. I can also attest to the fact that they don't survive tile floors. My sister had a visit from a vacuum cleaner salesman who insisted that his vacuum would clean so well that she wouldn't believe her house was so dirty. Every time she tried to tell him his vacuum would not work in her house, he would cut her off, saying she should let him prove it. Finally giving up, she let him in the house to set it up. When he asked her where he was to plug it in, she said, that's what I've been trying to tell you. I don't have electricity. When I think back to these salesmen, I can't forget Jack Bishop. He would come to the farm with bushels and boxes of fruit. And I always hoped my dad would buy bananas because I love them, and we didn't get them very often. Jack was a great guy, but he had a really unique way of talking, and we liked to imitate him after he was gone. He sort of sounded like this. I'm Jack Bishop, and I have bananas and apples for sale. Real cheap. Would you like some? We probably should have been more careful about trying to talk like him, because one day he showed up and my brother greeted him, saying, Hello, Jack. What do you have today? Realizing in embarrassment what he had done, he quickly said, I'll get my dad, and disappeared. One of my favorite door to door sales was a blue van that would come to the farm. I think it was Friday mornings. On the side of the van was written, Cool store at your door. And that's exactly what they were. The Foresters owned a small country store in a little place called Poole. And to get more business, they started going to the local farms on Friday mornings to get grocery orders, and then would go back to the store, fill the order, and return to the farms in the afternoon to deliver them. This was a great way for our family to get needed items if we didn't have time to go grocery shopping ourselves. The Foresters also carried a few items in their van that you could purchase right away. We loved seeing the blue van come in the laneway, not only because Mom might purchase something special from them, but because they would let us, the children, choose a piece of candy or bubble gum from a candy jar. Mom never allowed us to ask for the candy, so if they forgot to offer it to us, we were quite disappointed. That is why we always made sure to come running when the van pulled in. There were many other salespeople that would show up now and again at the farm, but these are the ones I remember the most. So, when did we start seeing door to door salesmen as a bad thing? When did the trust for this type of buying sour for us? And has it come full circle? Because now we order things by phone and online and they come to our door. How is this different than before? Other than taking the personal interaction out of the equation, it seems quite familiar. Huh. I wonder if any of you remember the days of door to door salesmen. And I wonder how many of you now get things delivered by courier. Well, mach's gut, and see you next week on Amish Roots, plain talk in a modern world.